Hey guys, this is Anna from Luna Solare. I wanted to make a video today about how to sculpt your own statue. So I'm going to go through the process that I actually do every time I make a sculpture, but I wanted to kind of lay out and tell you the differences between the clays that you can use so you can make your own decision before we actually start to go ahead and start the sculpting process. So there's two types of clay that I would use. I've used both before in the past. Right now I'm using Epoxy Clay. Actually, it's called Apoxie Clay. It's a two-part clay. I've talked about it a little bit. It actually hardens within 3 hours. It's like rock hard, and once it's done, it's done. That clay, is very cool. It comes in different colors: black, white, brown, orange. You can combine, like if you want to, just instead of painting it, use a couple of different clays for clothing. So it's cool in that sense. And also it'll, you can, if you apply it gradually, you're okay. So I'm gonna give you two options. The other clay that you can use is called Sculpey Clay. It's actually, it does, you have to bake it, and the beauty of it is you can bake it in your own oven. It actually says on the box what the temperature is. I believe it was like 275 or something. I haven't used it in a while, but I have done sculptures with it. So Sculpey is a good clay. They both are great. It depends on how you feel comfortable with it. The Sculpey will not dry until you bake it. And so it kind of gives you a little bit more leisure to, if you make a mistake, you can kind of go in and, you have a little bit more time to fix it. If you decide to go with Sculpey, bear in mind that in order to bake it so it won't crack, you have to make the inside, fill it first with aluminum foil. So you kind of create your statue, the body inside, with aluminum foil, and then you can apply, just a thin layer of the Sculpey, because the thicker the Sculpey, it's not gonna dry well when it's baking and can crack. So that's why you usually fill the statue and then you can apply the layer of the Sculpey on top. So this is the clay that I will be using. Hold on a sec. So it's a two-part clay, like I said. This is Apoxie Sculpt. There's a part A and part B. You mix them equally. And then it comes in a different size too. So if you want a smaller size, you can go with this smaller size. This one I believe is brown. This is brown. Show. So this is the color that the sculpture will be brown, and the other part that you're mixing it with is a gray, and this is always gray no matter what color epoxy that you get. All right. So the other thing so once you decide what type of clay that you want to use. Oh, and the Sculpey and this clay you can get at art supply stores. So if there's like a Jerry's in your area, or Utrecht or something like that, they will have them. You can also buy them online, but the shipping for the epoxy is quite expensive. The larger the container, the more expensive it is, right? So this one I believe was $30, and this is like 50, I think, shipping and all. So so decide what clay that you want to use. The Sculpey, if you want to smooth it out at the end, you have to use alcohol, rubbing alcohol, to get the smooth surface. And you have to use, I'll show you the tools that I have. I work with these for the epoxy or the Sculpey. So these I bought them a while ago, so they're pretty, they're used. So they come like this, right? They have like different points. These are metal. I mean, they're aluminum, right? So they have like different tips. And this one right here. So you can use the metal ones for Sculpey. You cannot use wood or rubber ones for the Sculpey because it will stick. It won't work well. For the Epoxy Clay, you can use the metal ones, or you can go and buy the rubber ones. I actually prefer the rubber ones. I use both, but the rubber ones kind of go smoother in the on the clay. They're kind of used, and these you can get also at the art store. You would need a couple of sizes, I guess. The small, right? This is a tiny one, and there's like a wider one I have somewhere. Now I'm only finding the small one. The flat, there's like a flat one. And if you go, they will sell them like in a pack. So you'll have like a small, wide, wider, flat. So they're different. They'll sell them in a little pack. If you do not want to spend any money on tools, you can make your own tools. What you can do is, at least for the epoxy clay, I got these from the CVS or Rite Aid. You know, they have like for teeth. You know, they have like these are actually like for dental tools that I found. So I bought these, and actually they're really good because they are, you know, metal, so they worked fine. Again, a pack of these will be probably around, I don't know, like $8 probably for a pack, if I'm correct. So you'll need a cup of water if you're working with epoxy, your tools, some paper towels, and you also need rubber gloves, like the surgical gloves. You can get this at CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, they'll have them. I have smaller hands, so I get like a small size. And the reason for that is so you don't get your hands dirty with the epoxy clay, because it will not come off. I mean, it'll come off with soap if you wash it immediately, otherwise it's going to stain your hands. So to begin with, before you even begin with the clay, you need to get yourself some wire. If you are working with epoxy clay, which this is the one I'm using here, if you're not working with the epoxy clay, skip the wire. You will be using the aluminum. So get yourself some aluminum foil. But for the epoxy clay people, you're going to need wire, and you're going to need aluminum foil also. And this is for the armature that we'll be building for the statue, because it helps to give it support, and that way you can actually see the body of the statue before you actually apply the clay, and you can see any mistakes in proportion that you've made, and you can adjust them before you apply the clay. So this is one of the tricks that I use in order to make sure that I'm not going to end up after the statue is hardened with something that's off, you know, like a big head or the arms are too long. So so that's what you're going to need. And also a wire cutter for your wire. I have a small wire cutter. What did I do with it? It's here somewhere. Anyway, you're gonna need a wire cutter. So we'll start with that. I usually sketch out what I want to make first, because that way I have something that I look at, and also it helps me put my ideas on paper, and it's a great guide to have, because even if you're going to change your statue a little bit around, you won't have a point of focus. And also the size of your drawing you can kind of match with your wire, and I'll show you what I mean. So what I would say right now is draw your idea down. Try and get it as concise as possible as far as you know, what position she will be in, or he will be in. So I'm going to show you guys what I mean by that. Okay guys, so if you're doing a statue of a goddess or a god, you need to make sure that you know what elements that particular deity is associated with. So make a list of all the elements that you'd like incorporated, and then try and sketch out as loosely as possible your idea. Now I've decided that I want to make a Gaia statue that will be seated, so like in a kneeling position. So I'm going to start off probably front so I can have an idea of how she's going to look. I'm using a marker, so if I make a mistake, I'll have to figure it out, but because otherwise you can't see with the pencil. So this is going to be her head, an oval, and then I'm doing her shoulders, and she's going to be like probably in a seated position. She most likely will be nude, unless I decide to drape her with something at the end. And then her torso, and then she will be kneeling. So because she's kneeling, this is just for me, so I have an understanding of how I'm going to draw her. Okay, so her hands, I'm thinking her hands will be on her, kind of like almost like a praying position. Now this is loose, as you can see, and I want her to be almost like her body is emerging from the earth, so she's going to have some tree roots kind of coming through. She is Gaia after all. And that'll be her navel. And now I'm going to decide how I'm going to want her to look. Now, I might change her head position once I start sculpting her, or once I start doing the armature. In terms of how I want her to look, her face, I'm giving myself a rough idea, but she's not going to probably, like, you know, when you start sculpting, they tend to change. They take on a life of their own, and sometimes you'll just think, I need to incorporate this. I take that as a divine kind of inspiration, and I just go with it. So even if you decided in your sketch that she's going to have black hair, and all of a sudden while you're sculpting her, you're like, oh no, I want her to have red hair, because you can paint this statue afterwards if you so want to. So she's going to have long hair, long flowing hair, and these are her hands. So as you can see, I most likely will end up with no negative spaces in this statue. It'll all be in one piece. At most, there's going to be some maybe in between her arms, but that's it. Now you can't really see her hands very well, but I'm trying to get her so you can kind of see. You know, so this will be her, she'll maybe have a base that she will sit on, not sure. And maybe I'll have some vines kind of coming through her. So maybe she'll have like these vines, because she's Gaia, she's emerging from the earth, and maybe some leaves. But this is my idea, right? This is what I'm going to start with. So if you want to create a standing goddess, then you would have to do the same thing I did. Do an oval. It doesn't have to be a perfect oval, but you know. And then you're going to have to make sure that, I'm doing this for you guys, but you have to measure to make sure that the head is going to fit probably 7 times in the body. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, right? 4, 5, 6, 7. So that would be a standing figure. And then the head, so for women, the shoulders are less broad, but usually it's the size of the head sideways, right? The one head on one side and one head on the other side. But if it's a woman, you can make her a little less wide. So if this is your standing figure, which again, it can be fairly easy to do once you have your wire, you can decide that you're going to have a triangle. So you have an oval, you have a triangle going for her bust. And you see where the head I did once and then twice in the body. You can put a line there because that will be probably her cleavage. And then if you want her to have something on, and I highly advise it because it helps at the beginning. And then you can do another almost inverted triangle, but then extended, right? So this will be her body. And the dress, I mean, you can have the dress, and then you kind of tailor her waist, and decide what you want her to hold. Now I'm doing this so if you want another option, I mean, mine is going to be seated, but you can have one standing if you choose to, and you can have, you know, her arms can fall to the side. And then you can decide, so this is the head, sideways. If you divide the head, you know, kind of like that, you can have the eyebrows, well, a little lower, the nose, because this will be her hair, will be probably up there. So eyebrows, eyes will be here, nose, and mouth. And then decide if you want to have up hair or down hair, right? So this would be a standing figure. If you need help with a standing figure and the proportions, you can, if you really want to learn how to do this, you can also go get a wooden man from the art stores. They're made out of wood, and they're like they look kind of like this, you know, and they have like the body out of wood, but it helps you with proportion, so you can move them around. They have like hands and the feet. You can kind of move them around, and it gives you a sense of the proportion. So anyway, this would be your drawing stage. Once we're done with the drawing stage, we are going to go to the creating a wire armature. If you're doing epoxy, if you're doing Sculpey, then just the tinfoil armature. So the next video will be about that.